Hi, good afternoon everybody. Beth here with another Wednesday Wellbeing. I hope you are doing okay. This afternoon I'm going to be talking about winter wellbeing, and that's quite a big subject, so I'm going to be dividing it into two. Part one this afternoon is about physical wellbeing, and next week we'll have part two on mental wellbeing, specifically related to the winter. In a way, I feel like it's a bit early to start thinking about winter, but there are things that we can do now to make our winter healthier and easier. Although winter weather and snow can be exciting and fun and pretty, winter's also associated with an increase in illnesses and injuries. It's not entirely clear at the moment whether the spread of coronavirus will get worse over the winter months, the way that flu tends to, but we do know that having coronavirus in addition to the seasonal viruses like flu and colds makes serious outcomes much more likely. So that really wants to be avoided. And as well, it's clear that the combination of winter health problems alongside the extra burden of coronavirus is likely to cause problems for the NHS, who are already more busy than they would usually be because of dealing with the backlog of the regular non-coronavirus work that has been delayed because of the pandemic. So it's more important for us than ever to try and avoid hospital admissions. And with some simple precautions, most people can minimise additional risks. So I've had a look at a lot of different information that's out there from the NHS and various science sources, and I've boiled it down to 7 key points. They won't be an exhaustive list. Hopefully this will be a good start in identifying ways to help prevent increased risk. So number 1 is to keep up the hand washing, the social distancing, the mask wearing and so on, and avoid touching your face. I know it feels like we've been doing this for a long time already, and it is likely that people will feel tempted to ignore the rules about meeting with others inside the home as the weather gets colder and it's harder to meet up with people outside. But if this happens, it's likely to cause a spike in coronavirus cases, even if the virus itself doesn't spread more easily in cold weather. It's also going to help the spread of other viruses and bugs. So sticking to the regulations will help to prevent you coming into contact with the cold and flu viruses and other bugs that are going around, as well as coronavirus itself. Number 2 is to keep warm. So cold weather can increase the risk of some very serious health problems. Your blood pressure increases as your body tries to keep you warm when it's cold, which can increase the risk of heart attacks and strokes. The cold can also make you more susceptible to many viruses and infections and can lead to hypothermia, which in itself can kill. So the recommendation is that you set your thermostat to between 18 and 21 degrees. And if possible, set the heating to come on before you get up and switch off after you go to bed. Now, I'll put a link in the comments section to the government information leaflet that's called Keep Warm, Keep Well. And this booklet includes information on how to reduce your heating bills and how to get help with heating bills, such as cold weather payments and winter fuel allowance. If you have gas or solid fuel heating, it's important to remember to get your heating checked by an appropriately registered engineer every year. If you live in rented accommodation, this is the responsibility of your landlord. If you aren't sure whether or not it's being carried out, do check with your landlord and ask for copies of the certificates. Now, it's important for safety reasons like avoiding carbon monoxide poisoning, but also it's for general maintenance to make sure you don't get left without heating when it's really cold. To improve the effectiveness of your heating and thus keep the bills down, make sure that you close your curtains at dusk when the temperature starts to drop. Check for drafts around doors and windows. Ensure your radiators aren't blocked off by furniture. Make sure you'd have ideally about 10 inches of insulation in the loft. There's more energy efficiency advice available from Simple Energy Advice line, and the details for that are in the Keep Warm, Keep Well booklet that I mentioned earlier. Of course, you don't just have to rely on heating to keep you warm. Drinking lots of warm drinks and having at least one hot meal a day makes quite a difference. And wearing several layers of thin clothing will keep you warmer than 1 or 2 thick layers. And the same applies when going outside in the cold weather, but also you'll need to wear a warm waterproof coat then, and you'll probably remember your nan telling you that you lose most of your heat from your head. Well, she was right, so wearing a hat is extremely beneficial, and keeping your extremities warm like your feet and your hands, so thick socks and warm gloves. Number 3 on the list, get the flu jab. Now, this is most important to anyone classed as vulnerable to coronavirus. If you are classed as vulnerable to coronavirus, you're also vulnerable to the flu. And if you get both of them at the same time, as I've already said, the results are more likely to be extremely serious. And flu is actually something that we can vaccinate against, and it's important for those most at risk to do so to avoid those extreme effects. This year, the government has made the vaccination available on the NHS to a wider group of people more than ever before, including the over 50s, people with long-term health problems, disabled people, carers, many children, pregnant women, and so on. GP surgeries are going to be vaccinating in order of priority, but flu vaccinations can also be accessed from the NHS, from your local pharmacy. And if you don't qualify for the free vaccine, you should be able to get it done for around £10-ish at a pharmacy if you wanted to. But be warned that some pharmacies have temporarily suspended this service in order to prioritise those with medical need, because there is just at the moment a shortage of the vaccine, although that it's believed that will rectify. Number 4 on the list, eat healthily. Eating a good balanced diet, including a variety of fruit and vegetables. Obviously your 5 a day, as many different coloured fruit and veg as you can mix in. So your variety of fruit and vegetables, your protein, your whole grains, your dairy. Your balanced diet is known to help us maintain good all-round health, but it includes our immune systems, and in order to stay as well as possible to avoid getting these viruses and so on, it's important to keep good nutrition. And there are certainly vitamins which are required for the healthy functioning of the immune system, but there are often claims that we can boost our immune systems by taking lots of vitamin supplements. And again, this has become a subject in the media and so on as a result of coronavirus. So, but the reality is that if you're suffering from malnutrition, yes, your immune system might not function as effectively as it should, and therefore these supplements might be beneficial. But the evidence suggests that if it's not the case, if you're having a good balanced diet, taking additional vitamins is of no benefit, and in some instances it can cause you to overdose on some vitamins. And not only that, there is some evidence that for some nutrients we don't get the same benefit from taking them in supplement form as we do from eating them in the form of fruit and vegetables and in your general diet. The one exception to this is vitamin D. And vitamin D is one of the vitamins essential to your immune function. We get most of our vitamin D from the sunlight, so it's hard to get this during the winter months, especially up here in the northeast. There are food sources of vitamin D, in particular oily fish, egg yolk, mushrooms, and some fortified foods such as breakfast cereals. But it's hard to get enough from these alone. So you may want to consider taking a vitamin D supplement. But be sure not to take more than the recommended dosage. I'll put a link in the comments to a couple of really helpful articles from Which magazine, which explain the relationship between the immune system and nutrition in further detail, and how to get the right nutrients in your diet. It's always worth having a few cans of soup in the back of your cupboards, and maybe a loaf of bread in the freezer, just in case the weather gets so awful that you can't get out. But please don't take this too far. We have seen the devastating impact of panic buying earlier in the year, and the council usually will clear roads within a day or two so that you can get out to the shops, and there are often people willing to help out if you can't get out. And actually, if you're anything like me, you probably have a lot more food in your cupboards and your freezer than you actually realise that you do. Number 5, keep active. And obviously we know that activity is good for overall health and well-being, and maintaining the best possible health will help keep us safe over the winter. But not just that, exercise can help to keep us warm too, and not just for the time that we're exercising. So if you're stuck indoors, do try to get up at least every hour and move about a bit. Maybe go and make a warm drink or do some household chores, or just, if you find it difficult to walk or whatever, sitting in your chair and waggling your toes and your hands and, you know, waving your arms around and things can help to get your pulse going. Doing outside exercise is good too. Ideally at least 20 minutes a day, maybe just going for a walk, and it helps us to get some of that elusive vitamin D. But if you're exercising outside in snow or wet or in icy conditions, do make sure that you wear shoes with a decent grip to avoid fall and slips. And this is especially important for older people, or for people with conditions affecting bone density or blood clotting. Number 6, seek advice if you get ill. If you get a cold, a flu, sore throat, norovirus, which is the winter vomiting bug, the sooner you get advice and get help, the sooner you're going to be well. And with illnesses like that, the first port of call would be to phone your pharmacy. And remember, you can phone them, you don't have to go in to get advice. So it's worth having their telephone number to hand. And they will be able to advise you what products, if any, may help. And some may even be able to deliver them to your door. It may be that you decide to stock up on some of the basics now so that you have them there ready if they become necessary. And again, your pharmacist would be happy to advise you on what would be helpful to have in stock. They're also able to give you general advice on how to manage being ill and specific conditions, or to direct you to the most appropriate service if necessary, whether that's your GP, 111, A&E or whatever. Obviously, if you're feeling severely ill, do take appropriate action and ring 111 or 999 if you think you're in urgent, imminent danger. And if you get any of these illnesses, pay even more attention to your hand washing and your household hygiene to avoid spreading it to other people in the home. Keep warm, have plenty of fluids, that's non-alcoholic drinks unfortunately, and have plenty of rest. You can take paracetamol for any aches and pains or fever you have. And obviously, with the way things are at the moment, you may be worried about whether you have coronavirus or flu. In the comments section, I'll share a very good newspaper article which compares the symptoms of various illnesses with coronavirus to help you to decide. There's a table in there that compares the symptoms, so it may be worth keeping a screenshot of that or downloading the image so that you have that to hand. If you've got a long-term health condition, you should make sure that you know about and understand that condition, and in particular that you understand the impact of cold weather on that condition and what action should be taken in response to any problems that you have relating to the weather. So for example, I have asthma, I've mentioned this before. I know that cold air can make my breathing worse, and I know that the advice to prevent this happening is to cover the mouth and nose with a scarf. So like this. So in my case, the requirement for a face covering may actually act in my favour. I'm also aware that if I get a cold or a cough or flu, that I need to be I'm also aware that if I get a cold or a cough or flu, this can affect my breathing as well. And I now know from experience the point at which it's bad enough when I need to ring my GP, and they will usually prescribe a short course of steroid tablets at that point. And finally, number 7 is that do check up on other people. Check up on older neighbours and relatives and those with heart problems or breathing problems. Make sure they're safe and well, and make sure they're warm enough, especially at night time, and that they have stocks of food and medicines so that they don't need to go out when it's very cold. And it may also be helpful for you and them if you get them to put key telephone numbers by their phone, such as family members and GP, and then they're there to hand for them to use or for you to use if necessary. So, as I say, this is not an exhaustive list, it's just a summary of the main points that I found. As always, I'll put lots of helpful links in the comments, so look out for those. Next week, as I said, I will be looking at mental well-being and how to maintain mental well-being throughout the winter, because this is a big issue for a lot of people when there's less daylight and so on. But for the moment, I shall wish you a good week and goodbye. Bye bye.